Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for what I think is our third session of our Volunteers Festival, our fourth Volunteers Festival, I believe, to celebrate the UK's Volunteers Week. So thank you for joining me. It's really nice to be here with you all again and really hopefully share with you a bit of an update on what I've been doing since I was on the other side of things, I suppose. Many of you may be aware that I was the volunteer engagement manager until about 18 months ago, when I took on the role of partnership manager with shared interest. So this morning's session is really about partnerships. What are they? How do we develop them? What does my role involve? So hopefully I'll be able to take you on a journey through that and then answer any of your questions at the end. I do feel that many of the skills involved in this new role, well, it's not so new anymore, as I say, 18 months, 2 years on, are very similar to many of the skills that I benefited from in my role involved in engaging volunteers. Things like building connections, building relationships with people, engendering trust, listening and understanding motivations and how to respond to these to benefit and have effect for both or all involved are just some of the things I was reflecting on before speaking to you this morning that are things that I think were involved in both sides of both volunteering but also partnering and partnerships. So what do we mean by partners? What do we refer to as a partner? So we've created at Shared Interest, we've created a working definition of partner. Now we've created a working definition because it is something that may evolve with time as our work with partners and our kind of understanding of working in partnership develops and changes as we do that further into the future. But we define a partner as an organisation that we work with for a specific purpose and impact. And those two key elements, the purpose and impact, are particularly relevant. This is about having organisations with whom we have a particular objective, perhaps to fulfil, a particular activity in mind, a particular reason for having a relationship with an organisation, something that's tangible, that's going to be of benefit to both ourselves, shared interest, but also to the partner organisation as well. So something that's mutually beneficial. We work together to help us achieve our mission and help them achieve theirs. So as I say, it's about something that's got to be mutually beneficial. We share values, so it's very important to us that any partners that we work with have a sort of a commonality with us around the values that we have as organisations. It's also about sharing skills, knowledge and expertise as well. We do recognise that a partner might have another relationship with us, so we may have an additional type of connection to the organisation, but we very clearly define a partner as we've explained there, as I've explained there. We also are aiming to be intentional with the organisations that we partner with. So in the initial stages of exploring partnerships, it might involve carrying out a lot of initial research to understand the organisation, have communications with them to understand what they do, how they operate, and what they could potentially benefit from a relationship with shared interests. So what could we bring to their organisation in the same way as understanding what they could bring to us. So it's very important that we're intentional about building what that purpose is. That initial conversation can only go so far if there isn't a tangible that we can work towards. So there may be some great organisations out there who are useful for us to network with and connect with, but in terms of creating an actual partnership, it may be that at that moment in time, that's not the best approach. Partners are organisations that we will aim to build relationships with to support the delivery of our strategy. So the creation of the role of partnership developed as a result of our strategic review that we carried out a couple of years ago now. And so the aim is very much to have our strategy at focus, and understanding that to deliver on our strategy, we're not experts in everything. So shared interest continues to do what we do very well. We have a particular skill set within our organisation, particular knowledge, experience and expertise. But to enable us to achieve our strategy and achieve our mission, there will be other organisations who we will need to engage with, to collaborate with, to help us achieve that. So it's having that focus in mind, but also being open to the opportunities that will cross our way as I go through this role. As I come across different organizations, it's also being open to different things and thinking, okay, maybe this isn't something I was thinking I would find, but this could be of benefit, or there's a potential to develop a relationship with this organization for another purpose, for another benefit to the organization. So to start off with, what I really started trying to do was understand, well, who are our existing partners? It's not that Shared Interest didn't have partners previous to my taking on the role of partnership manager. In fact, we have a great network of partners. And indeed, partnership and the idea of working with partners is embedded within Shared Interest. Our mission and values reflect on this. We can see here that in our mission, we observe that we have a current network of organisations that we work collaboratively and innovatively with, and those who share our commitment to fair and just trade. So as I mentioned, it's about ensuring that organisations share our values and share our understanding of the world and the role that we want to play within it. We do have a current network of partners who we've built relationships with, some over many years, some more recently. And we do put partnership at the heart of what we do as an organisation. That is one of our core values. We are developing a visual map of our current partners to help us understand a little bit more about the relationships we have collectively with them. And we're also increasing the information that we collect through communication with colleagues about what those partnerships mean. What is the purpose of those partnerships? What are they enabling us to achieve? What are they supporting us with? And how are we supporting them in their work as well? Just to give us a bit of an all-round understanding of the relationships that we have, because it's helpful to know that for our existing partnerships, but it may also give us lessons to learn in how we develop new partnerships into the future as well. So as I mentioned, the development of partnerships is very much about supporting the delivery of our strategic goals, with a particular focus on 3 key areas from our strategy. And those are the themes of climate change, gender, and technical assistance. Now, those are not unique themes. They don't sort of sit neatly individually. They are very much interconnected. And indeed, it's very rare, I think, now to talk about the impacts and the solutions or the potential responses to the impacts of climate change without acknowledging gender equality. So there is very much an interconnectedness between those themes. It's also about, as I mentioned, being intentional with those partnerships, with developing those partnerships. So trying to maintain focus and have a really clear purpose of what we're trying to achieve through a partnership. And also ensure that those partnerships are going to enable us to deliver what we hope they will, in terms of ultimately enabling us to support our customers and project participants. So just to take each of those sort of themes in turn, to give you a little bit more information about the kind of the context to each of those. So technical assistance is a key part of the work that we do, and has been something that Shared Interest Foundation has very often involved and embedded within their project activities. And so the role of partnership manager isn't unique to the society. My work involves supporting both the society and the foundation. And so really it's the technical assistance focus is about understanding what opportunities there are, what organisations are there out there who have expertise and delivery experience around technical assistance. Technical assistance is a really hot topic at the moment in the sector. There's a lot of research currently being carried out by organisations looking at the role of technical assistance in accompanying finance, accompanying the type of finance that shared interest is providing to our customers. So there will be a huge amount of interesting research available in the not too distant future that will be really valuable, I think, to shared interest, to understand what the landscape of technical assistance is looking like, and understanding where there are potential partnerships for that. Gender. So gender is a really key part of our strategic review, as you'll be aware. And currently we are exploring opportunities to understand more about what approach we might want to take around gender equality, understanding where we are currently, and looking to engage in an organisation to get some potential support for us as an organisation to work through some of those ideas about where do we want to position ourselves around our focus, if you like, around gender. And then climate change. So this is obviously a vast issue, vast challenge, affecting every sector of the organisations that shared interest works with. We are very fortunate, obviously, to hear a lot of updates from our lending colleagues, and it's very rare that climate change doesn't enter those conversations at some point, certainly recently. We have refined our focus on climate change within obviously that vast scope of both geography, but also commodity. So we've refined our focus around climate change to really try and explore more about coffee in Peru. So what are the impacts, the challenges that organisations are facing, and therefore what are the responses that we can support them with? And cocoa in Ivory Coast. So those two country and commodity pairings represent our largest exposures in terms of coffee and cocoa being the commodities that we lend the most finance to, and Peru and Ivory Coast being the countries with each of those commodities at the highest proportions. We've conducted some research with customers in those regions and commodities to understand more about what they're experiencing and where their thoughts are around how they would like to respond to the impacts they're experiencing of climate change, and therefore taking that information to then understand, okay, what response would we need to explore, and which organisations out there are working on those responses, which organisations have the expertise, the technical knowledge perhaps that we as an organisation don't possess in terms of understanding a lot more about those impacts, and particularly those impacts in those geographies and in those supply chains. So the impacts of climate change for a coffee farmer in Peru, for example, will be very different than a coffee farmer in Kenya, say. So it's really about understanding the very specific nature of responses that are suitable and appropriate in those regions. So a little bit then, what have I been doing? What am I doing in this role? What does it involve? So a big part of partnership building is obviously networking. You need to find the organisations to be able to explore partnership opportunities with them. So these are just some of the key events that I've attended or participated in. Some of these have been online, some of them in person. And I think one of the great things about what online allows us to do is some of these events would have been inaccessible as a result of where they were located, whereas having an online opportunity enables us to engage in the conversation and participate through online dialogues, online conversations, and following up with people after the event. Being at each of these events, so we've got a World Coffee Summit, which was obviously very coffee focused, that was an in-person event in London. Adaptation Futures was an online and in person. It was a hybrid event that I participated in online and was very much focused on adaptation solutions in agriculture internationally. So a very broad focus, but some very innovative solutions coming through, some very research focused agendas to that. So very interesting to learn of the types of organisations that maybe have that knowledge or have that research information that would be of benefit potentially to shared interest. CSAF is the Council for Smallholder Agricultural Finance, of which Shared Interest was a founding member, and they have events where it has been possible for me to participate with a partnership hat on, so understanding more about the organisations that they have connections with and exploring our own relationships with some of those other organisations in that network. And then Financial Inclusion Week, again, an online event, but offering an opportunity to learn more about the different types of finance that are developed and involved in the space, really, in terms of what different organisations are developing to respond to particular climate challenges, how people are ensuring access to finance for those that really need it. That sort of thing. So again, an interesting opportunity to explore and learn more about the organisations who are out there working on many of the similar challenges, but also those with new responses that we perhaps wouldn't otherwise have been exposed to. Attendance at these events is also beneficial in terms of the sort of follow-up opportunities. So not only in terms of meeting people, whether that's virtually or in person, but also the follow-up conversations and follow-up opportunities. So through attendance at some of these events, I've then been invited to other events. So it's also about using them as opportunities or taking advantage of some of the opportunities that emerge as a result of being connected into these events for alternative activities as well. So it's sort of growing the networks and the connections that I'm making. So I thought it might just be useful to share just a small number or a small example, perhaps, of some of the organisations that we consider existing partners. So some of the role is also about strengthening partnerships that we already have, but also some of the organisations that we've been exploring partnerships with as well, and exploring what do these organisations do, what potential might there be to engage with them. So just to pick a couple, there'll be some names there that are familiar to you. Fair Trade International is an organisation that Shared Interest has considered a partner for a long time, very integral to the work that we do as an organisation, obviously. SNUP, which is the one with the SSNUP acronym. They are an organisation that is a partner of CSAF, so the Council for Smallholder Agricultural Finance that I mentioned just earlier. And SNUP is an initiative that is aiming to support smallholder agricultural organisations, so the type of organisation that Shared Interest is working with access to technical assistance. So they support technical assistance projects that a number of organisations like Shared Interest could potentially engage with. So they are an interesting organisation that we are kind of building a connection with, building a relationship with around that theme. Value for Women is a gender specialist organisation. So again, looking to explore more about their work. They have also worked very closely with CSAF and a number of other organisations that Shared Interest is already connected to. And so we're exploring opportunities there around their work and how we can potentially collaborate and be of mutual benefit to each other. And then finally, Alliance, Bioversity and SEAT. This is a research organisation very much focused around agriculture, again, and they carry out a lot of different areas of work, but one of the particular strands of their work that I've been exploring with them is around the impacts of climate change. They have a fantastic tool that enables future predictions of the impacts of climate change on particular commodities, a small number of commodities in a small number of regions in the world, but they have the ability to scientifically map the projected impacts of things like increased temperatures, rainfall pattern changes, those sorts of things on those particular crops, which again is information and knowledge that could be of benefit to Shared Interest. So how does it work in practice? How kind of what's the sort of process, I suppose? So as I mentioned, there's a lot of initial research around understanding what an organisation is, what they do, how they operate, what their particular focus is, where they operate. So understanding if there's a match in terms of geography. Do they work in the same countries, the same regions that shared interest does, the same commodities, the same supply chains, that sort of thing. That research really is kind of, I think, the bulk of the work in terms of understanding what potential there is. So there's initial understanding of the organisation, what they're doing, but also, well, what would that purpose to a partnership be? What is it that they can offer, and what is it that we can provide that they are looking for? So where's that kind of mutual benefit with the organisation? That then provides me with a bit of a pipeline, if you like, I suppose, a little bit like our lending colleagues have in terms of sort of a flow, if you like, of different relationships at different stages of understanding and development. Then it's about introductions, so really kind of introducing ourselves to the organisation, confirming what the research has perhaps shown already, understanding much more. And obviously there's a lot that kind of a conversation with an organisation can reveal a lot more than perhaps kind of desk-based research. It's really about understanding the organisation. And then when there is an organisation that has reached kind of a point where there's a potential to develop a partnership with them, I then prepare a short paper about the organisation to be shared with our senior team, who then will have a review of that, perhaps ask some questions, understand a little bit more about the perspective of things and the potential of the relationship. And then explore that further, see where that goes in communication with colleagues. So I kind of see my role as a bit of a matchmaker, if you like. It's potentially about going out and meeting organisations, communicating to them with an introduction about what we do, and then exploring that and pursuing that further to then be able to pass that over to some colleagues to really kind of build the relationship and build the partnership further. So I just thought it might be useful to focus a little bit about the element of climate change as a focus for partnerships. And so what we've indicated through the strategic review was that although our mission is perhaps not directly connected to the issue of climate change, as I mentioned, we're very aware that the products, people and communities that we support are absolutely affected by its impact. And these are the words that were shared in the strategic review, that we would build partnerships to help take our climate focus forward. So building relationships with those organisations that have expertise around climate change, that have the knowledge. So the likes of some of the organisations that I've just mentioned, where their work is absolutely focused on climate and the consequences and impacts of that, with knowledge that could be of benefit to shared interest. And then for each of the cocoa and coffee focuses, with that knowledge of what organisations are doing and what organisations are focused on, it can be helpful sometimes for us to understand that in a bigger picture. So when it's about individual conversations sometimes with an organisation, I know there's another organisation, and making connections on an individual level, sometimes to bring it together, I found it can be helpful to explore that with a visual representation. So what I've started working on are these almost sort of like little maps, if you like, connecting each of these organisations to understand where there are common areas of work. So for example, what connections do those organisations have with others? What is the scale of potential? There is a huge kind of opportunity out there, but it's also about being mindful that if we want to have purpose and impact, that needs to have a focus as well. So sometimes being able to visualize things can help us refine that focus and think down, okay, this is an organization that has connections to others, but maybe this is a good starting point to explore from, to see that. So these are just some of the maps that that I've been creating to help me really understand how do these things all connect. So the green dots that you can see are existing partners, organisations that we would consider to be existing partners of shared interest. The purple dots are other social lenders, so other organisations similar to shared interest. And the blue dots are key organisations that I've identified working in that space. So this, for example, is showing the connections of those organisations working in cocoa in Ivory Coast as well. And the grey are organisations that shared interest is already supporting. And so just another similar one for coffee. So I quite like to see things together, which is why this tool has certainly been very useful for me in being able to visualize things, and as I say, visualize those connections and the interconnections between organizations along the way. Which is, yeah, as I say, helps me understand where things fit together. When you've got a list of names or a list of organizations, being able to connect them together into a kind of a cog, or however you might want to visualize these images, I certainly find beneficial. So it's certainly an interesting role. I'm finding it really fascinating to explore and learn more about all these organisations and what they're doing, and the potential that there is for engaging with shared interest and starting and having those conversations with them to explore where those opportunities can go, and also understanding more about what shared interest has to offer as well, which is obviously a key part of it. And it is now starting to happen that I am being approached in my role with shared interest, but through attending events, through being present at some of these networking opportunities, those sorts of things, people are starting to approach me and saying, oh, we're working on this. Is this something that shared interest are interested in? Which is fantastic, because it's a sign that we are engaging with people and that people are sort of noticing that we're out there and doing things, which is great. And also that we have something that is of benefit to them. We maybe have knowledge or expertise that is of interest to them. So I think that's always really nice to feel that we are playing a role as well in that bigger ecosystem of things, which is great. So that is what I sort of came to share with you this morning. I hope it's given you a bit of a snapshot, as I say, of the role of partnership manager and what we mean by partnering with purpose at shared interest. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A, and I'll hopefully try and answer them for you.
Thanks, Sally. That was really interesting. You're very busy at the moment. There's a lot going on there. So yes, fantastic. So if anyone does have any questions, if you just want to put it into the Q&A, we'll be able to answer them for you. So we'll just give that a couple moments to give everyone a chance to decide if they have any questions for Sally. Oh, you might be getting let off. You might be getting let off, Sally. It sounds like no one has any questions for you. No, no questions for Sally. I mean, if you do have any at all, like I say, you can email ourselves at volunteers@shared-interest.com. We'll be able to forward them on to Sally. But thanks again, Sally, for coming on and taking the time out, your busy schedule to speak to everyone today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, do drop through any questions you might have or any suggestions. If you know of any organisations that you think, oh, I wonder if that organisation's on Sally's radar, feel free to let me know. Yeah.
Oh, we've just
There's
got
a
one.
question just jumped in.
Oh.
Do some of the partners also become potential funders to Shared Interest Foundation?
Yes, so some of they would be what we would call a funder. We wouldn't necessarily use the term partner in that same way, that same kind of description of them. But yes, so some of the organisations that I'll come across will perhaps have an arm of their organisation that is providing funding, that is providing grants. So the type of organisation that Shared Interest Foundation could make an application to for funds, yeah. Yeah. So there's potential there for that to be the case. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great, Sally. Thank you very much. And everyone else, enjoy your day. We have 2 more of our volunteer festivals happening tomorrow. So I hope those of you can join us. But until then, have a good day. Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.